I never thought a simple phone could pull me away from God. At first, it felt harmless, just something to kill time, something everyone does. But slowly, that phone started to take over every part of my life. I would wake up, and the first thing I'd grab was my phone. I stopped praying in the mornings. I didn't even thank God for a new day. My finger would automatically scroll through social media like it was part of my morning routine. The truth is, I felt good there. I felt accepted. Every like, every comment gave me this false sense of importance, like I mattered. I was getting addicted, but I couldn't see it. Even at church, I couldn't focus. I would sit there, eyes on the pastor, but my heart was trapped in my phone. My friend Emily noticed. After one service, she pulled me aside and said she was worried about me. She said I seemed distant, cold, and that something in me had changed. I laughed it off. I told her she was being dramatic. "It's just a phone," I said. "It's not a sin." I brushed her off like it was nothing, but deep down, I kept chasing more attention online. I wanted to be seen, to be noticed, to be praised. I started posting more revealing photos, pictures I never would have shared before. I felt powerful when my likes went up. It was like I was finally becoming someone. That's when I met Josh. He sent me a message after liking one of my pictures. He was charming, funny, and always said the exact things I wanted to hear. Josh made me feel special, like I had real potential. Josh quickly became the person I talked to the most. Every day, every hour, he was there on my phone. And the more I talked to him, the more I pulled away from Emily, from church, from God. But honestly, I didn't care. My prayers became robotic, shallow. I couldn't feel God's presence anymore. I told myself it was just a phase, that I'd get back on track later, but deep down, I knew I was already slipping away, and I couldn't stop. That's when weird things started happening. The phone would vibrate in church, even though I had it on airplane mode. Sometimes it would turn on by itself. Other times apps would open without me touching anything. I told myself I was just being paranoid. One night, Emily reached out again. She told me she'd had a dream about me. In the dream, I was locked in a dark room, surrounded by electronic devices that glowed like fire. She begged me to be careful, that God was warning me. But again, I laughed it off. "It's just a silly dream," I said. The truth was I was already hooked. I couldn't imagine living without my phone. It felt like an extension of my body. I carried it everywhere, to the bathroom, to the dinner table, even when I was just walking around the neighborhood. When I tried to put it down, I felt anxious, like something was missing. Josh kept pushing me to post more, to grow my following, to build my brand. He said I was made for this, that I was destined for something big, and I trusted him more than anyone, even more than God. I started following pages I would have been afraid to open before. Pages that promoted a life with no rules, no guilt, no God. It all seemed so exciting, so modern. I wanted to be part of that world, but something inside me still felt off. I felt this deep sadness I couldn't explain, like I knew I was heading down the wrong path, but I didn't care. I couldn't stop. Then the really creepy stuff started. Sometimes my phone would ring, but when I answered, all I heard was heavy breathing. Other times, I'd get messages that disappeared before I could read them. But I kept telling myself it was just a glitch. One night, after spending hours scrolling, I finally went to bed with my phone right next to me, like always. Suddenly it vibrated hard, even though it was set to silent. When I looked at the screen, I saw a message that made my blood run cold. "We are watching you." I tried to delete it, but it wouldn't go away. I turned the phone off, turned it back on, but the message was still there. I opened settings, tried to wipe everything, but it was like the message was burned into the system. My hands were shaking. Right then, I felt a cold chill run through my entire body. I had this overwhelming feeling that someone was watching me in my room. I looked around but saw nothing. Still, the feeling was so strong I could barely breathe. I tried to convince myself it was just a virus, some random glitch. But deep inside, I knew this wasn't normal. This was just the beginning. That night, after reading that strange message, I couldn't sleep at all. I felt like something was in my room, like someone was watching me from the dark. I kept telling myself it was just my imagination, but the fear was way too real. When morning came, I was still shaken. I turned my phone back on, and to my surprise, the message was gone. For a second, I thought maybe I overreacted. Maybe it was a glitch, but something deep inside told me it wasn't over. I tried to go about my day like nothing happened. I went to school, hung out with some friends, smiled like everything was fine. But my phone started acting even weirder. Sometimes it would light up by itself. Sometimes apps would open without me touching anything. I kept hearing vibrations, but there were no notifications. One of the creepiest things was when I got a voice message from an unknown number. When I played it, all I heard was heavy breathing and a faint laugh in the background. The sound was so real it gave me goosebumps. I deleted it right away, but I couldn't forget that noise. Soon, I started having the same nightmare over and over. In the dream, I was alone, trapped in a dark room. My phone would light up on the ground. Every time I picked it up, dark shadows and twisted hands would crawl out of the screen, laughing at me. I always woke up sweating and panicking. I tried to distract myself by watching funny videos and browsing memes. But what freaked me out was that whenever I tried to open anything Christian, my phone would freeze or crash. But when I opened inappropriate or worldly content, everything worked perfectly. I began to feel strange presences in my house. I'd hear footsteps in the hallway late at night, tapping on the walls, distant laughter. My phone would vibrate out of nowhere, even when it was off. It felt like something had entered my home through it. The worst part? I couldn't put the phone down. Even though I was scared, even though I knew something was wrong, I couldn't stop. It was like I was glued to it, like I needed it to breathe. One Sunday during church, my phone vibrated in my pocket, even though I had turned it off. When I checked, there was a disturbing image of glowing red eyes staring at me. No number, no message, just the eyes. I quickly deleted it, but I couldn't shake it off. The strange messages started coming more frequently. Phrases like, "We are here," "Don't leave," "Keep watching." I blocked the numbers, but the texts kept showing up from new senders. At night, things got worse. I would hear breathing next to my bed. Sometimes I heard my name being whispered in the dark. My phone felt like a door to something I couldn't control, but I still clung to it like it was all I had left. Emily came to me again. She said she had been praying for me and that God had shown her that I was spiritually trapped, but there was still a way out. I got mad. I told her to stop preaching to me, that my phone wasn't evil, that she was overreacting. But honestly, I couldn't even pray anymore. I tried, but it felt like my words were hitting a wall, like I was completely blocked from God. I felt empty and alone, like there was no way back. I started getting irritated with everyone, Emily, my mom, the pastor. I pushed them all away. I didn't want to hear anyone's advice. I wanted to stay in my world, even though I knew deep down something was devouring me. One night, after yet another nightmare, I woke up and found my phone open to a video I didn't remember playing. It was dark, with shadowy figures walking in circles and a deep voice repeating, "You belong to us." I slammed the phone shut in terror, but I felt like something was now fully inside my room. From that night on, the footsteps, the knocking, and the laughter got louder and closer. It was like my phone had officially become a gateway. The creepy phone calls didn't stop either. Every time I answered, I heard the same heavy breathing. No words, just breathing. Whenever I asked who it was, the call would drop. My mom noticed I was getting worse. She asked me why I was always so angry, why I locked myself in my room, why I barely spoke to her anymore. I had no answer. I didn't even know who I was anymore. But the scariest part, Even though I was terrified, even though I knew I was caught in something evil, I still couldn't let go of my phone. It was like I was chained to it. And with each passing day, I felt like whatever was following me was getting closer. Even though I was already terrified, I still couldn't put my phone down. It was like it had a grip on me, like I needed it to survive. And that's when Josh started getting even closer. Josh constantly pushed me to post more pictures, to grow my following, to build my personal brand. He told me I had so much potential and that I could be famous if I just kept going. I believed every word he said. He made me feel important. One night while we were talking about boosting my social media, Josh told me he knew someone who could help me go viral fast. He said he had a digital mentor, someone with secret techniques to make accounts explode overnight. I was so obsessed with growing that I didn't even hesitate. I wanted to meet him. Josh gave me a number and told me this mentor would start sending me special messages and instructions. I didn't even question it. I just wanted to be seen. I wanted to feel valuable. The first message came quickly. It said, "You were born to shine." Later, I got another one. "Your beauty can conquer the world." At first, they sounded like motivational quotes, but as the days passed, the messages started getting more intense. The number said his name was Askar. He never explained who he really was or how he knew so much about me. He just said his mission was to guide me to success. I felt special having someone like that paying attention to me. The messages started coming at weird times, 2 or 3 in the morning. Even when I was asleep, my phone would vibrate like crazy. When I played the voice notes, I heard a smooth, attractive voice telling me I was on the right path. But there was something in that voice, something that chilled me to the bone. Josh told me to trust the process, that everything was going exactly how it should. I believed him. I felt like I was finally on the right track. I started posting more seductive pictures, following pages that promoted a lifestyle without limits, without God, without guilt. My follower count skyrocketed. I felt powerful, like I was finally becoming someone. But then things took a disturbing turn. Askar's messages got personal. He described what I was wearing, what room I was in, and what I was doing in real time. He knew everything. It terrified me. One night, while I was filming a video for Instagram, the lights in my room started flickering. My phone froze, and suddenly a message appeared. "I'm here." I felt like someone was standing right behind me. My heart nearly exploded from panic. I asked Josh who Askar really was. He just smiled and said, "Trust the process. You're doing great." That answer made my stomach twist. The calls started coming in at all hours. When I answered, all I heard was that same heavy breathing. Sometimes silence, sometimes faint laughter. My phone began sending me notifications even when it was turned off. It would light up by itself. Even when I left it in another room, new messages would somehow appear. It felt like the phone no longer needed me to operate it. One night, while I was getting ready in front of the mirror, I placed my phone on my bed with the camera facing me. As I looked at my reflection, something made my blood run cold. In the reflection of the phone screen, I clearly saw a dark shadow behind me with glowing red eyes. I turned around immediately. No one was there. My room was empty, but the icy chill in my spine stayed with me the whole night. After that scare, I wanted to stop everything, but I couldn't. It was like the phone had me chained, like something was pulling me in, like I had lost all control. I no longer knew who was in charge, me, Josh, Askar, or something much darker. And even though everything inside me screamed that I should run, I stayed because I couldn't stop. What I saw in the mirror that night never left my mind. I tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light, that I was just tired. But deep down, I knew what I saw was real. I saw those red eyes. I saw that twisted smile. But still, I couldn't let go of my phone. It was like I was addicted to it, like it had become part of me. Every day I spent more time scrolling, posting, following pages that I would have avoided before. Josh kept telling me I was doing great, that this was all part of my growth. I completely stopped going to church. My mum begged me to come back, but I always made up excuses to stay home. I didn't want to hear about God. I didn't want anyone telling me what to do. I just wanted to stay in my world. Emily didn't give up on me. She kept texting me, calling me, trying to reach me. One day, she showed up at my house without warning. She said she needed to talk to me immediately. I didn't want to listen, but she begged so much that I finally let her in. We sat in the living room, and Emily, with tears in her eyes, told me she had another dream about me. This time, she said I was locked in a dark room, surrounded by phones that glowed like fire. She told me in her dream, the phones were chained to my hands, and on the other end of those chains were demons, dragging me while laughing in my face. She begged me to listen, to be careful, to understand that God was warning me. I laughed right in her face. I told her she was overreacting, that it was just a stupid dream. Josh was with me that day, and with his usual calm attitude, he said Emily was just another religious fanatic who didn't understand the modern world. Emily looked heartbroken. She tried to hug me, but I pushed her away. I told her I was fine, that I knew what I was doing, but deep inside, I already knew I had lost control. After she left, Josh turned to me and said, "People like her just want to keep you small. Don't listen to them. You're doing amazing." And of course, I believed him. That's when I started following Ashley, a popular Christian influencer who called herself modern and free. She talked about God, but also promoted living without limits, without guilt, doing whatever felt good. She twisted Bible verses to fit her lifestyle. I was fascinated. I wanted to be like Ashley. I started copying her poses, her captions, her style. I admired her boldness, her confidence, her fame. I wanted that life more than anything. Josh kept cheering me on, telling me Oscar was pleased with me. That comment unsettled me, but I ignored it. I had gotten really good at ignoring things. Emily reached out again a few days later, even more desperate this time. She told me she had another dream about me. This time, the demons were dragging me while I cried and screamed. She said she tried to reach me, but a huge door slammed shut between us. She cried in front of me and begged me to come back, told me there was still time, that God was waiting for me. I coldly told her I didn't want to hear it, that God had bigger things to worry about than me and my phone. Emily left crying. And honestly, I felt relieved when she was gone. I didn't want to feel guilty. I didn't want to feel bad. I just wanted to keep living my life the way I wanted. That night, I got another message from Oscar. "Keep going. You're doing great. Soon, everyone will see you. Don't stop now." I smiled. I felt important. I felt like I was getting close to something huge. But inside, there was this gnawing emptiness. No matter how many likes or followers I got, I still felt incredibly alone. It was like I was surrounded by applause, but still dying inside. Even though Emily had warned me so many times, even though I knew something was seriously wrong, I kept going. I shut my ears to her. I closed my eyes to the signs. What I didn't realize was that the price for this path was going to be way higher than I could ever imagine. My spiritual life was completely destroyed, but my mom wouldn't give up on me. She kept begging me to go back to church. She told me she was praying for me every day, and she said she felt something dark had taken over me. I couldn't stand hearing her anymore. I finally agreed to go to a church service, mostly just to shut her up. I showed up with the worst attitude, sat in the back, and pulled out my phone as soon as the pastor started preaching. That day's message was about surrendering what we love the most to God. I laughed to myself. There was no way I would ever give up my phone. While the pastor preached, I felt like something was sitting on my chest. I couldn't raise my hands. I couldn't pray. My heart was completely cold. I just kept scrolling, sliding my finger across the screen like I didn't even care. That's when it happened. My phone vibrated hard in my lap, even though it was on airplane mode. When I looked down, a message popped up that shook me to my core. "You belong to me. Don't fight this." I tried to delete the message, but it wouldn't go away. I closed the app, I powered the phone off, restarted it, but the message was still burned on the screen, like it was part of the phone now. My hands started shaking. Cold sweat ran down my back. I felt like I couldn't breathe. I heard the pastor, but his voice seemed far away. It was like I was completely disconnected from the room. Suddenly, the phone vibrated again. Another message appeared. "Now you'll hear me." Right after that, the phone heated up in my hand. I tried to drop it, but my fingers felt glued to it. Then, a loud static noise blasted from the speakers, mixed with distorted voices. People sitting near me started turning around. The pastor stopped preaching. The whole church stared at me. The noise kept getting louder and louder, almost like it was coming from somewhere deep and evil. The phone was shaking violently in my hands as I desperately tried to shut it off. And then I heard it. A deep, terrifying voice came through the phone speaker. "She's mine!" It echoed through the whole sanctuary. I panicked. I screamed and tried to throw the phone away, but I still couldn't let go. The pastor ran toward me and started praying out loud. The phone was burning hot and felt like it was about to explode. The pastor cried out for the blood of Jesus as several church members surrounded me in prayer. I was crying, screaming, but at the same time, I felt like something invisible was pulling me into the phone. It was like my soul was being sucked into it. It became a public spiritual battle. The pastor kept commanding the demon to let me go, to release my mind, my body, my life. But the voice on the phone kept repeating, "She's already mine. She already chose." I felt my body giving out. My legs collapsed, and I fell to the ground, still clutching the phone. The prayers got louder and stronger. I felt something raging inside me, like a violent war. The phone burned my skin. I finally gathered enough strength to throw it away. It hit the ground, but kept vibrating, the screen still showing the message, "You belong to me." The pastor ordered no one to touch the phone. He kept praying over me, his voice firm and loud. I felt like something was being ripped out of my soul, something I had unknowingly allowed to grow inside me. After several minutes, the phone finally powered off on its own. I was left lying on the floor, completely exhausted and crying uncontrollably. People surrounded me. Some hugged me. Others kept praying quietly. But even then, a terrifying thought crept into my mind. Was it really over, or was this just the beginning? I left the church with trembling legs. My mom hugged me tightly, relieved I was okay, but the stares from the congregation followed me. I knew what happened that day would never be forgotten. The phone was still there on the floor, silent and off, but I could feel it. This wasn't over. After what happened at that church service, I tried to go back to my normal life, but I couldn't. I felt like something had been opened inside me, something I couldn't close. I couldn't forget that voice that came through my phone. I couldn't forget how everyone looked at me that day. I felt like I had been marked. For days, I tried to put the phone down. I really did. But it was like it kept calling me. I heard phantom vibrations even when it was off. I felt like the screen was still glowing, waiting for me. It was like the phone was alive. The nights got even worse. My dreams turned into violent nightmares. I would wake up shaking and sweating, completely out of breath. Then, one night, something even more terrifying happened. I don't know if I was asleep or awake, but I suddenly couldn't move. I was stuck, frozen in place. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The phone started glowing in my hand like it was pulling me in. I tried to drop it, but I couldn't. I felt like I was being dragged into it. In the next moment, I found myself somewhere else. It was dark, cold, and completely silent. The ground was wet, and a heavy fog made it impossible to see far. I heard chains dragging across the ground and strange whispers all around me. Suddenly, a soft light appeared in front of me. A man dressed in white walked towards me. His face was calm but serious. He called me by my name and told me he had been sent by God to show me something I had refused to see. Before I could ask him anything, he touched my shoulder, and in a blink, we were in a different place. A huge valley, grey and endless, covered in a low, dense fog. Thousands, maybe millions of people were there, each of them holding onto their phones with both hands. Their hands were chained to their phones. The chains stretched out and connected to horrible, demonic creatures that pulled at the chains aggressively. The people bled, they cried, but they wouldn't let go of their phones. I walked through the valley, horrified. I recognized faces. I saw young people from my old church, even pastors and worship leaders, all trapped, hypnotized, staring at their phones as if they were asleep. The man told me this was the Valley of Digital Captives, a spiritual space where souls were enslaved through addiction. He explained that the phone itself wasn't the enemy, but what people allowed to enter through it was. As I kept walking, I saw Ashley, the Christian influencer I admired so much. She was there too, chained, smiling as if she didn't even notice she was a prisoner. It was like she was happy in her captivity. Then I saw something that crushed me. Emily was there. She was crying, clutching her phone, her wrists wrapped in chains. I screamed her name, but she didn't hear me. The man told me that even those who try to warn others can fall if they're not careful with their own hearts. I desperately wanted to run to her, to break her chains, to pull her out, but the man stopped me. He said that in this place, everyone holds their own chain, and that freedom is a personal decision. Suddenly, the valley shook. A thick black smoke appeared, and out of it walked a tall, terrifying figure with horns and glowing red eyes. The devil. He walked slowly, scanning the captives with pleasure. When he saw me, he smiled with disgusting satisfaction. He said, "I no longer need to chase Christians. They imprison themselves with their own hands. My kingdom fits in the palm of your hand." His words ripped through me. He was laughing at us. He told me he didn't need to start wars or create fear anymore. Now he entered quietly, through the screens, through the eyes, through the distracted hearts. He got closer to me and looked right into my eyes. "I've already started my work in you, and you won't resist." I trembled. I wanted to scream, to run, but my legs wouldn't move. The man in white stepped in front of me, shielding me. The devil laughed and disappeared into the fog. The man looked at me and said, "There's still time, but you must choose. You must fight." In a flash, I was back in my bed, soaked in sweat, my heart racing. The phone was glowing next to me with a new notification. I didn't dare touch it. I knew this wasn't just a dream. I knew the war had only just begun. After what I saw in the Valley of Digital Captives, I couldn't go back to normal. The images haunted me. I could still feel the weight of those chains around my wrists. I could still hear the devil's mocking voice. I tried harder than ever to stay away from my phone. I turned it off. I even thought about throwing it away, but it was like it had a life of its own. Even when it was off, I swore I felt it vibrating. I still heard phantom notifications. It was like it wouldn't let me go. Josh kept messaging me like nothing had happened. He kept pushing me to post more, to grow my following, to trust Askar. But I didn't trust him anymore. Something inside me screamed that Josh had been lying to me all along. One afternoon, I couldn't take it anymore. I confronted him. I asked him who Askar really was and why he knew so much about me. I asked why he wouldn't stop contacting me when I clearly wanted out. Josh just smiled, calm as ever, like nothing I said could shake him. He told me not to worry, that I didn't need to know everything, that all I had to do was trust the process. But I kept pressing him. I demanded the truth. I begged him to be honest. That's when his face changed. Josh's expression turned cold, distant. He looked me straight in the eye and said, "Askar is the one guiding you to success. He's the one opening the doors for you. You should be grateful." I told him I was scared. I told him I didn't want to keep going. And that's when he dropped the truth like a bomb. "You're not going to stop. You can't. This didn't happen by accident. I was sent to bring you into this, from the very beginning." I felt like my world collapsed under me. I asked him what he meant, and he told me without hesitation. "I made a pact. I sold my soul for power on social media, and my assignment was to find you, to pull you in, to get you chained. And guess what? It's working, isn't it?" I couldn't breathe. I screamed at him to get out of my house. He just smiled and calmly said, "You're already trapped. You can't get out now. I know what you've done. I know everything about you." He threatened me. He said he had screenshots, messages, videos. He said if I tried to pull away, he would expose me online. He said he would destroy me publicly. I was shaking. I felt like I was suffocating. I wanted to pray, but the words wouldn't come. It felt like heaven was completely shut off from me. Josh walked out of my house, but before he left, he turned and said, "You'll never get rid of me, or him." And I knew exactly who he meant. The messages from Askar kept coming, but now they were even more aggressive. He called me mine over and over. He said I had no way out, that I was already marked. The phone felt heavier in my hand, hotter, almost like it was fused to me. I wanted to throw it away, but something kept pulling me back. I didn't know if I was still addicted or if I was spiritually chained. I cut myself off from everyone. I didn't want to talk to Emily, my mum, or anyone else. I was terrified Josh would follow through on his threats. I was scared of being humiliated, of being destroyed. But deep down, what scared me the most was that maybe Josh was right. Maybe I had gone too far. Maybe I was already in too deep. I felt like the chains from that valley were tightening around me every day. The nights became unbearable again. The knocks, the footsteps, the shadows in my room, the calls with heavy breathing, they all came back. But now they were even more intense. It felt like hell itself had moved into my bedroom. And the worst part? I didn't even know how I let it get this far. I didn't understand how I allowed myself to fall so deep. And the most terrifying thing of all was that even though every part of me screamed to run, I still couldn't let go of the phone. The nights became impossible. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't breathe. The messages kept coming, the strange phone calls, the heavy breathing, the audio notes in that smooth but chilling voice. It all kept happening. And Josh had completely disappeared, like he had already finished his mission. One night, while lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, I suddenly felt my body lock up. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I couldn't even blink. My phone, which was sitting on my nightstand, began glowing with a strange red light. I watched helplessly as the screen flashed, pulling me in. It was like I was being sucked out of my own body and dragged into another realm. I couldn't fight it. The next thing I knew, I was standing in a huge, dark hall, surrounded by black pillars, covered in symbols I didn't recognize. I was sitting alone in front of a crowd of shadowy figures who stared at me from the darkness. That's when he appeared, Askar. For the first time, I saw him face to face. He wasn't just a voice anymore. He was tall, dressed in an expensive black suit, looking like some high-powered CEO. His eyes glowed red, and his smile chilled me to the bone. He called me by my name and said, "Welcome to your trial. It's time to decide if you want to stay invisible or finally accept the place I've prepared for you." I told him I wanted nothing to do with this. I begged to go home, but he didn't stop. With a flick of his wrist, he projected all my private texts, videos, conversations, things no one else knew about. He exposed every secret I had. "You're already inside my system," he told me. "The algorithms know you. They feed you. They guide you. Every click, every post, every scroll was a door you opened. I didn't force you. You came to me willingly." His words shattered me. It was like every time I touched the screen, I had signed invisible contracts. Like every time I ignored God, I had tied another knot around my own soul. Askar started offering me things. He promised more followers, more beauty, more fame, more influence. He told me I could dominate social media. He said I could lead millions if I just stayed connected to him. I cried, begging to escape, but he kept whispering, just one more post, just one more step. You're so close. You've already come this far. Don't stop now. Then he showed me something that crushed me. Askar revealed that he controlled the algorithms. He said he had already destroyed entire churches by manipulating what Christians see online. He said he controlled the trending topics, the suggested videos, the viral content. I don't walk through church doors anymore, he said. I come through their eyes. I come through their hands. I'm the notification they never ignore. I felt completely broken. I wanted to run, to escape, but my legs wouldn't move. I was trapped in that place, seduced and suffocated all at once. Askar got closer and made the offer crystal clear. I'll give you beauty, fame, power. Just keep going. Don't back out now. The world is yours if you stay with me. I trembled, crying uncontrollably. I told him I wanted God. I told him I wanted to go back. I wanted out. He laughed, a deep, disgusting laugh that echoed through the whole hall. You really think God wants you now? After everything you've done, after everything you gave me, you're mine. I screamed for God with everything I had. I cried out from the deepest part of my soul. I didn't care if it was too late. I didn't care if anyone was listening. I just screamed his name over and over. Suddenly, everything started shaking. The pillars cracked. The shadowy figures disappeared. Askar's smile vanished. He stepped back like something stronger had just entered the room. I felt something pulling me out, like a storm yanking me away from that dark place. I woke up in my bed, completely soaked in sweat, gasping for air. My phone was still glowing next to me, vibrating with a new message. This conversation isn't over. I didn't know if I had won, or if I had just bought myself a little more time. But what I knew for sure was that the battle wasn't over. After that night with Askar, I couldn't function anymore. I couldn't breathe without feeling the weight of his voice in my chest. The words, "You're mine," haunted me every second. The messages didn't stop. The phone wouldn't stop vibrating, wouldn't stop calling me. I realized I had no way out unless I truly cried out to God, unless I fought like I'd never fought before. I decided to do something I'd never done, a full fast. I locked myself in my room, pushed the phone away and dropped to my knees. I cried like I had never cried in my life. I begged God to rescue me. I told him I didn't want to live like this. I told him I felt like a slave. I admitted that I had allowed this to happen, that I had made the wrong choices. But I desperately wanted to go back. I screamed until my throat hurt. I begged him not to leave me. I begged him to tear down the chains I had willingly put on myself. But the first thing I got in response was silence. The voices came almost immediately. He won't hear you. You're already ours. It's too late. I covered my ears, but the whispers were inside my head. I couldn't block them. I spent 3 days without eating, without touching my phone, just crying and praying. On the second night, I started experiencing terrifying spiritual attacks. I would feel invisible hands pressing on my chest while I slept, keeping me from breathing. I heard loud knocks on the walls, laughter in the dark, and I felt like something was watching me constantly. The fear became unbearable. I heard footsteps outside my door, felt shadows brushing past me. My phone, even though it was off, would sometimes vibrate and light up all by itself. I knew something was trying to drag me back in. My mum realized something was seriously wrong and called our church's pastor. When he saw me, he looked horrified. I was pale, weak and emotionally wrecked, but determined to keep fighting. He prayed for me in the house and told me I needed to come to the deliverance service that night. I was terrified, but I agreed. I knew if I didn't face this now, I wasn't going to make it. When I arrived at the church, I could barely stand. I felt like I was being crushed under a spiritual weight. The pastor began praying, and as soon as he said the name of Jesus, I collapsed to my knees. I started screaming. My body shook violently. I felt like something inside me was being pulled apart. I couldn't control what came out of my mouth. It wasn't me. It was angry voices, mocking voices, cursing God. The church surrounded me, praying intensely. The pastor shouted, commanding the spirits to release me, to let go of my life. I felt something being ripped from deep inside me, something that had been there for too long. My mum told me later that the phone I had left at home began vibrating like crazy during the service, even though it was turned off and buried under a pile of clothes. The pastor pointed and said, "The connection is there. The phone is the open door." He told my mom to destroy it immediately. My mom and some church members rushed home, grabbed the phone, and smashed it to pieces. The moment they did, I felt a surge of heat rush through my body. I felt something break. The voices screamed, "No, not yet." I felt chains snapping one by one, like something was finally losing its grip on me. Suddenly, everything went quiet. I collapsed on the floor, exhausted, but for the first time in a long time, I could breathe. When I opened my eyes, Emily was kneeling beside me, tears running down her face. She hugged me tightly and whispered, "I never stopped praying for you. I always knew God would bring you back." In that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in forever. Peace. A warm presence surrounded me. I knew God had never abandoned me. He had been waiting for me the whole time. The church cried with me, they hugged me, they celebrated with me. But I also knew something else. There was something I still needed to do, something I had to tell, something that could set others free. The battle had left scars, but now I finally had a mission. After that night of deliverance, I knew I could never go back to who I was. God had pulled me out of a pit I had willingly walked into. I had gotten myself lost, but God chased me down and rescued me. I spent several days recovering, both physically and emotionally. I still felt the weight of everything I had been through. It was like I could still feel the chains on my wrists, the memories of the battles, the screams, the shadows. They stayed with me. But I also knew something else. I couldn't keep this to myself. God had made it clear. This story needed to be told. There were too many people like me, trapped and not even realizing it. The pastor came to visit me and told me I needed to share my testimony. Not for fame, not for attention, but to wake people up. At first I was terrified. I thought people would judge me, call me crazy, or laugh at me. But God touched my heart. He reminded me that my silence could leave others in chains. And that Sunday, with my hands shaking and my heart racing, I stood in front of the entire church to tell them everything. I didn't hold anything back. I told them how it started with innocent scrolling, how I slowly drifted away from God, how I let the phone take over my life, how I ignored the people who loved me. I told them about Josh, about Askar, about the seductive messages, the manipulation, the valley of digital captives, the battles in my room, and the public deliverance at church. I told them about the night my phone screamed that I belonged to it, about the chains, the suffocation, the spiritual war that nearly killed me. As I spoke, I saw people crying all over the room, young people staring at their phones with guilt, parents wiping away tears, leaders shaking their heads in shock. It wasn't just my story, it was their story too. I told them about the freedom God gave me, about the phone being destroyed, about how God pulled me out when I thought I'd gone too far. I told them the devil had tried to convince me it was too late, but God showed me it's never too late to come back. While I was speaking, I saw Emily sitting in the front row, crying and smiling at the same time. I cried too. I asked for her forgiveness in front of everyone. I thanked her for never giving up on me. The entire service was live streamed, And soon, my testimony started spreading across the country. People began messaging our church from other states, saying they were addicted to their phones, to social media, to the very things I had been trapped by. Teenagers started deleting apps, putting their phones away, fasting from social media. Families began reconnecting in person again. God was waking people up, and somehow He was using my story to do it. I got invited to speak at other churches, youth events, even online conferences. Everywhere I went, I made sure to tell them, the phone isn't the problem, it's what we let into our lives through it. It's the doors we open without realizing. I became known for saying a phrase that caught fire among young people. The devil came in through my hands, but God rescued me through my heart. That phrase went viral. Kids started making posters, sharing it on social media, even wearing it on t-shirts. It became a symbol of a generation finally waking up. Emily and I are closer now than ever before. She always tells me she knew God would never let me go. She believed, even when I didn't. My mom hugs me every day and thanks God she didn't lose me. She tells me she always believed her prayers would bring me home. I know this war isn't over. I know I still live in a world full of distractions and traps, but now I fight with my eyes wide open. Now I know that if you don't control it, it will control you. And I learned something I want you to never forget. No matter how far you've gone, no matter how deep you've fallen, God can always rescue you. He rescued me.